Bam. Good morning.
Good morning.
Jethro Cardona, Jeffrey, David, Spiegel, Jeez Louise, Michael Shanks, Michelle Shanks. Hey, I'm reading this book. It's called The Longest Shot. I'm going to have the author on soon. This is a really good book. I highly recommend listening to the audiobook. It's called The Longest Shot. The author's name is Craig
Harrison.
The audiobook's amazing. I mean, absolutely. It's like, I can't even believe it's real. It's like an adventure book. It's so cool. And I chatted with him this morning. He's having hip surgery. So that's what the delay is of getting him on the show. But it's called The Longest Shot by Craig Harrison. I am completely 100. Yeah, this book. I am enjoying it so much. Definitely, it should. I don't know if this was made into a movie, but if it's not, it should be. It is so fun. The beginning, the buildup to him even getting in the military, his childhood. It reminds me a lot of Roger Sparks's book. This guy has a pretty strong English accent. And
He's a British guy.
Yeah, it is so cool. Brandon Waddell, Tess, good morning, Kevin Allen, Mr. Hartle, Spiegel, Sean M, Austin Martin, Patrick Anderson, hello, Alan Kesterbaum, good morning, Wad Zombie, always appreciate your support. Thank you for all the generosity and everything you've done for the show. Melissa, obviously, always smart and generous in the comments. Thank you guys for all checking in. I heard this comedian the other day say something. I looked for the clip and I couldn't find it, but the comedian said something along the lines of, if you, well, all right, another show. Guest is here. Mr. Clark.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, good morning. I'm loving the shirt.
Thanks.
Representing.
What are you wearing? Is that a new shirt?
No Plan B. No. But I always feel like it is when I put it on. I'm always like, damn, this is great. I love this shirt.
Is that a new hoodie, Caleb?
I got a. So, did you say? Oh, a new hoodie, Caleb. Oh, yeah. What is that? What is that lid?
Only one hoodie out here. It's from Day at CrossFit PSKC.
Oh, nice.
Have we had them on the show?
No, I don't think so. It'd be really cool if we could, though. He's a pretty dope dude.
PSK.
PSKC.
PSKC. CrossFit PSKC.
What's that stand for?
I think it's like Portsmouth something. I can't remember exactly. It's Portsmouth, Ohio.
PSCK.
KC.
PSKC. And the dyslexia kicks in. Portsmouth, Ohio, home of hardworking, fun-loving people rooted in community, powered by CrossFit.
Might be a good affiliate show.
Hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast. Sent. Good morning, Allison. Good morning, Elise Carradau, Jeez Louise, Jason from Canada. You're not Canadian, are you, Clark?
No.
Mr. Clark? No.
No.
And you served in the U.S. military?
Still am.
As a National Guard?
Yeah.
Holy
National
cow.
Guard Reserves. Yep. It'll be 29 years in this coming July.
Wow.
Yeah. Getting old.
Are you addicted?
Um,
do you love it? Is that why you keep doing it?
Yeah. I definitely love it. I mean, you don't stick around that long, especially it helps that it's part-time. For me, it's 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. Obviously like Caleb, there are some deployments here and there. I've deployed 3 times, but yeah, it's been good to me. I've taken more out of it than it's taken out of me.
That's good. I like that. I like that math. When you entered the U.S. military, did you enter as National Guard?
Yeah. Yep. Use it to pay for school and paid for school, and then was able to do a lot of other fun stuff because of it. Picked up a lot of cool skills, met a lot of cool people, was able to travel to Middle East, which was, I guess that's never for most people, that's not on their bucket list, but I think I've been to every country in the Middle East in some form or capacity because of the military.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that the primary reason why you joined, is to help pay for school?
Yeah, that was it. My parents they offered to pay for school. I come from a military family, and they offered to pay for school, but the way I looked at it, if they were paying for school, then they had to say on what I wanted to be. My dad was paying, he wanted me to be a teacher and a high school coach, a high school football coach, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know. I wanted to do something different. And I figured the National Guard they're offering 100% tuition in the state of Illinois for any state school. And yeah, so did that, and GI Bill and all the other extra stuff. I had a little bit more money in my pocket than most college students because of it. So it was kind of cool.
How long were you in before you deployed?
My first deployment was 2006. So I was in almost 11 years. So I went 11 years without actually any like major conflicts or deployments, and 9/11 happened, and I almost got out, but I don't know. I felt compelled to stay in and continue to serve.
Is the conventional wisdom when you join the National Guard is that you won't deploy?
It used to be up until Iraq, Afghanistan. Then in some cases, you had a lot of National Guardsmen deploying more than some active duty units.
What is that percentage, Caleb? Can you look that up? What is the percentage of National Guards people that deploy? Yeah, because I remember as a kid, those were the guys, like, if I'm not mistaken, like if there's a hurricane or if there's a riot, or like they basically take care of the homeland.
Correct. And actually, that was a reason I was actually on my way out of getting out of the military. I'd served up to 10 years at that time, and that's usually like shit or get off the pot, 10 years, because everyone wants to hit that 20-year mark. And I actually got called up for my first major deployment. It was right after Hurricane Katrina. And so we're sent down to New Orleans, and at that time we had a lot of units, National Guard, Army, active duty military. They're deployed overseas, so it was kind of a ragtag bunch down in New Orleans. Just helping with the flood walls and all. It was just crazy, and I met some great people there, served with some great people, and then I found out that they were deploying as soon as we got back. And I said, if I was going to deploy, I was going to deploy with them, because it was just a great group. And yeah, I finally did something. A lot of National Guardsmen prior to that, they would go their whole military career without doing anything, just a 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. And after 10 years, that was like my first major thing I did with National Guard, where I felt like we were actually doing a job, like you see in the commercials, where they're zip lining into the water and saving cats and dogs and school children and stuff like that. So that was the first time, because it was just so surreal during Katrina. And I remember one day, like us and a bunch of our team, we saved probably about 35 people from a retirement home that had been stranded there for over a week because of the flood walls just bursting. And it was just, I don't know, it's very rewarding. And I finally felt like I found my calling, because I was in charge of that group, and we did a great job. And I don't know, felt a sense of accomplishment. And if they were going to go overseas, I didn't want them to go without me.
Is Katrina considered a deployment?
It's more of like I guess, how would you call that, Caleb? Maybe just I guess an act. I guess.
Yeah. So like it's almost like it would be considered a deployment, because it's along the same line as when they were doing the COVID coverage.
Yep.
Like you had people deploying from our station to like Minnesota or Louisiana and stuff like that. I think it depends on like the duration of your stay. And
do you consider that a deployment, Patrick?
Yeah, we're actually what Caleb said in terms of the how long, I think it's over 30 days. Then you're put on federal orders. And when you're put on federal orders, that means it goes under, they call them like Title 9, Title 10 orders.
Yep.
The funding's different. So a deployment is usually based on funding, how you define a deployment. So we were actually put on national funding, and then that's considered a deployment after 30 days. Because I think we purposely spent another week there, because I think at the time Hurricane Rita came in right after Katrina, and it hit Houston area very hard. So they extended us, and we stayed over 30 days. And when I was on COVID orders, I think I was on COVID orders. At one point, I was the longest serving Illinois National Guardsman on COVID orders. I was on orders for 18 months during COVID.
Jeez.
It had a great gig, though.
Yeah, I'm sure. You got a lot of nurses that picked up orders like that, and they're just basically travel nurses somewhere. And
yeah,
they worked in, basically did nothing for 6+ months, just overseeing people giving vaccines or taking or swabbing noses. And they call that a deployment.
Yeah, I got a lot of hotel points out of mine.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
I'm still using my hotel points from when I used to travel every weekend with CrossFit. I truly am. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to have. Nice to have in your pocket. That's actually what I used. I actually used my points when I was in Vegas for Zealous games.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What hotel did you stay at? Like at a Hilton?
A residence. I usually stay at a residence. They're usually pretty nice. They have full kitchens and stuff like that.
Yeah, dope.
Yeah.
So going back to Katrina, so you're in charge of like 15 dudes, and you get a call saying, "Hey, this is the address, and we got 30 people there. Figure it out and go get them."
Pretty much. We were we had a group. It was approximately 12 soldiers, male, female, and we were linked up with like some type of government agency, whether it be something from New Orleans, like whether it be their state highway patrol. I mean, we had so many different organizations there, and we were attached to them, so we just provided them support. So we were a transportation company, so we had these giant, huge trucks. We call them 5 tons, deuce and a halves. I mean, we had both, and they're mainly used for troop carriers. And because they're so high, stand so high, they were actually they would drive above the water. So that's what they kind of used us for. So we would actually drive up to these flooded houses that were like, 4 feet underwater, and drive up to them. And if there's someone in there, we tell them, "Hey, come out, we'll help you out."
What a scene.
Yeah, that's an old deuce and a half right there.
I think back in the day, I don't know, in 2008 or 9, when I visited Bill Henniger's gym, when him and Katie's gym. I mean, that's all they had. I think this was way back in the day. He had one of those broken down, just sitting in the back.
Yeah.
And I think eventually he got it repaired and up and running.
They're really actually pretty simple to repair. Not very cheap, especially nowadays, but those have been around since before World War II. And the Army was using those up, and actually the whole military they were using those up to probably right in the middle of the war. They're just so dependable. They're just an engine block, and all you need to do was oil change in those things, and that's it. It kept it in diesel.
And you loaded that thing with old people.
Yeah, we saved some animals, some young people. There's some people that just stayed in place when they tried to evacuate New Orleans. They refused to leave their home, and I'd have to find some of these pictures I had, because obviously, I'm a photographer. I was taking a bunch of pictures while all this was going on. I'd have to share those with you, but it was some pretty cool stuff. It was probably one of those moments that I'm most proud of in terms of serving, because it was like, again, it was one of the first times where I felt like I was actually doing what I signed up for. Because as I told you, I've gotten more out of the military than it's gotten out of me. Up until then, all I did was go to school 1 week in a month, come to drill, which is our 1 week in a month, hung over and hang out with our buddies, and then we'd leave on Sunday. That was it. I didn't really feel like I was accomplishing anything. And then something like that happened, and you're like, okay, this is why I joined. This is the real purpose, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds cool. It was probably one of the most picturesque, scenic, like, deployments I'm guessing you've done too, in terms of just seeing the stuff you saw would have made just endless great photographs.
Yeah, it was just so surreal. I mean, I'd never been to New Orleans, and we drove from Illinois down to New Orleans, and on the way there, people were evacuating. So it was kind of a very sad scene because all these people are leaving their home and they're staying at these rest areas in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, Georgia, wherever, or literally living in rest homes, and because they're so displaced. And then we pulled into New Orleans and it was completely empty. It was like there's an aircraft carrier right on the dock, that almost towered the whole city, and then you can see fires randomly everywhere. It's very apocalyptic, and we're going through like downtown traffic, going through all these neighborhoods, going down Bourbon Street, and there's like no one there except for there was one strip club that was still open.
Serious?
Yeah. It was powered by generators, and the hotel across from it was I forgot what type of hotel it was, but that's where a lot of the government agency people, like federal government agency people, were staying at that hotel. But it was crazy with like the one strip club that was open.
I want to say that the large what is the biggest migration in the U.S.? I want to say that I heard Katrina was the second largest migration of Americans besides the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco in the history of the United States. Now our border with Mexico might be that.
Correct. Yeah, I would imagine. But yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all.
So have you ever been deployed to the border?
No, I mean, they're trying to get me to.
It's chaos down there. It is chaos. I follow this guy Jorge Ventura, and it is chaos down there.
That's what I've heard. But for the military, especially as a commander, that's the last thing you want to do is be in charge of like 150, like basically kids away from home for the first time on the border, and they're all staying in hotel rooms and they have money. That's the last. I'm here. I hear horror stories. I was actually offered to take command of a unit that was deploying there, and I said no, thank you. I'm fine.
Because it's like managing a frat house a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing a good buddy of mine. He was command of a unit, and he had like nine soldiers got pregnant. A bunch, DUI charges in government vehicles. So they were getting pulled. They're getting pulled over in a government vehicle while intoxicated. I mean, just yeah, it's hurting cats, and it's again like a frat house, and you get a bunch of young kids, like 18, 19-year-old. Yes. Yeah, it's crazy. And I used to be one of those kids. Right. So I was like, there's no way I couldn't do that.
Especially if you're partying, 3, 4, 5 days a week, and then you're doing the National Guard thing on the weekend, and you're 20 years old, and then you get deployed. You just kind of maintain that lifestyle. It's the same thing with when all those pictures came out from Abu Ghraib. I was thinking to myself, I've seen crazier shit in the front, like those pyramids they were building with the prisoners and shit. I'm like, I mean, I went to UC Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara. That was the exact same thing that was done there.
Yeah.
And, my friends who are in the military was like, yeah, but they can't do that. They're supposed to have discipline. And my pushback always was, dude, they're fucking 19-year-old boys. Yeah. 19-year-old boys get other 19-year-old boys naked and build pyramids out of them. That's what we do. Yeah. I don't know why, but that's why you have to keep us very, very busy.
Yeah, exactly. And
we'll build naked pyramids everywhere. We'll do a lot of stuff naked.
My sister was deployed in Iraq when that was happening in Abu Ghraib, and she was actually a military police officer. So she went to that prison many a times to drop off or pick up people, and that was ran by a bunch of National Guardsmen and reservists as well. And
perfect.
Yeah. Perfect. And she would tell me, like, I mean, my sister, she had a lot more rough deployment in Iraq than I did, but and that's one reason why she's like my hero. But she would tell me some of the stories and how it turned her kind of cold and callous. And when I deployed, that was the last thing I wanted to happen to myself. But then it actually did turn that way, where I did become cold and callous. But through some help, I've been a lot more open about my experiences.
Because of cold and callous to protect yourself emotionally, because what you're seeing is too much to process in the moment.
Correct. Exactly.
Like you hit a squirrel and you have a couple, you're driving to work now and you hit a squirrel and it's like, you think about it for like a week. Yeah. But like you're over there and you're seeing fucking all sorts of bad shit happen every 15 minutes. And it's like, Dude, it took me a week to process the squirrel I fucking hit the other day.
Exactly.
Crazy. You have one sibling, your sister?
No, I also have an older brother too.
Did he go into National Guard also?
Yep.
Holy cow.
All three of us.
Holy cow. So older brother, younger sister.
Yeah, that's my younger sister. Yep. So she deployed first, I think 2002, 2003, right when the war started, when we invaded Iraq. She was part of that. It was the Wild Wild West back then. I deployed in 06, 07. Then my brother deployed in 2011. And his deployment was basically shutting down Iraq. At the time, we thought was shutting down Iraq. And then my second deployment was actually, my deployment was reopening back Iraq. So it was just kind of weird. It's kind of weird how all our deployments, like, they're different, but they're so similar in terms of everything. Yeah, it's my brother.
Wow, what a trip that all three of you went. That's pretty cool. What ethnicity are you?
Half Chinese, my mom's side, and then my dad's side is Native American, French Canadian, African American, and maybe Irish.
Wow.
Yeah.
On your mom's, is your mom first generation?
Yeah. She was actually born in Shanghai, and then during the whole communist rebellion, the whole family moved to Taiwan.
Dude, crazy.
So
there's all these people in the United States that I don't think people realize that are so freaking lucky to be alive.
Yes.
I'm Armenian and my wife is Jewish. And my kid, the fact that either one of us is here today living on planet Earth is absolutely nuts, being in the last 100 years, both our groups of our tribes went through mass genocide.
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy that your mom got out of China.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that you're here. And then your dad does, what does he know about his, his generations, how he got to the United States?
Well, I think my grandfather is the Native American side, and then my grandmother came from from Europe. So, and I think how they met in, I don't know, they're Hoosiers. My dad's a Hoosier, and they end up in Southern Indiana somewhere, somehow. But because of their ethnic backgrounds or the diversity, I mean, obviously my grandma being, of European descent and my grandfather being Native American, they were kind of, I guess, in the early 1900s or 20s, 30s, they were kind of, they played, I think my dad said my grandfather opened the first, I guess, all races, hardware store. So that he would
blacks can use the same register as whites.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
awesome.
My grandpa actually went to, I believe, my grandfather.
Don't worry. We're going to fix that. We're going to get back. We're going to have a special line for blacks again here soon. Don't worry. It's coming.
I don't doubt that at some point. Who knows?
I'd like to get one for Armenians too, please.
And he actually went to, I guess back then they called it the colored school.
Your grandfather did, because he was Native American. Yeah.
And they actually built their house, the house my dad raised in, actually in the colored portion of Mount Vernon, Indiana, which is a small town outside of Evansville. And it's still there. Every time I go to Evansville, I drive by, and I always pop my head through Mount Vernon and look at the old house, and the old segregated high school still there. It's crazy that it seems like so long ago, but yet a lot of those things are still standing, and it's just kind of I guess a reminder of our history or where we come from.
What was the name of the town? You said
Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon. Is that where it's
in Indiana?
Is that where that jiu-jitsu school is, where they have an abandoned? Caleb, we had the guy on
Daisy Fresh.
Daisy Fresh. Do you know about Daisy Fresh, Patrick?
I don't.
So in there's this group of jiu-jitsu. There was an abandoned dry cleaning service.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it's a dry cleaning service. Where they coin op laundry place.
Okay.
This guy rented the place and started teaching jiu-jitsu in there, and started letting the boys stay overnight there.
Oh wow.
And the place was a dilapidated pile of shit, like freezing in the mornings, below 30 degrees. And I had this guy on the show.
That's in Illinois, Mount Vernon, Illinois. Yeah, that's.
Oh, okay.
But
Indiana.
Yeah, Mount Vernon, Illinois is actually. I'm very familiar with Mount Vernon, Illinois. That's only like an hour away from me.
And these guys these guys are now like a force in the jiu-jitsu scene, like hardcore. And they're basically like the peasant boys. You know what I mean? And they have a series on YouTube. I highly recommend anyone see it. It reminds me so much of the shit we used to do back in the CrossFit days, where like the camera work and the audio and none of that matters because the content is so rich. And it's basically the journey of all of these boys who live together on mats.
Yeah.
And all they do is jiu-jitsu, day in and day out.
I could
see that everybody watch that here.
Yeah. Mount Vernon, Illinois, it's kind of like, it used to be like a coal mine city. Now it's basically like a highway city. It's kind of like a highway stop. It's one of those cities you go through and it's like nothing but truck stops and restaurants right off the highway. But it's just, like I said, it's kind of a poor city. A lot of, white middle America, lower middle class. So I could definitely see that.
Heidi Crum, Daisy Fresh team is all on the box of fruit drinks. Careful, Heidi. Careful. How dare you? How dare you? After I did the interview with that guy, I went to Trulia and I started looking up homes there. And the most expensive home I could find in the area was $500,000, and it was like 13 bedrooms on 40 acres with a pond. I was like, shit, I'm with like a 60 by 40 barn in the back that I could turn into a indoor skate park. I'm like, I'm moving.
Yeah.
My wife's like, no, we're not.
You don't want Illinois is not the greatest place in terms of taxes either. So it's one of those states where we call in Illinois, because I was raised in Illinois. I live in St. Louis now, just across the river. My parents still live in Illinois.
You live in St. Louis?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Crazy. But it's a whole state.
Go ahead. I'll ask you. I won't forget. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a whole state ran by, Chicago's in northern Illinois, but the rest of Illinois is ran by Chicago politics. It's crazy, because the most of Illinois outside Chicago is all like farmland and small towns and stuff like that, but it's being ran by big city politics, and it's kind of crazy, especially in the southern Illinois part where I was pretty much central southern Illinois where I was raised. Yeah.
I had this guy on the show. His name's Tommy G. I don't know if you saw that episode. He's a YouTube guy, and he's got, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 100,000 YouTube subscribers, and he makes these weird documentaries about just rough neighborhoods. And he's a white kid, and he goes into these neighborhoods, and it's like all black kids. And that's actually not true, actually, because of the story I'm telling. And I can't remember where he went, but he went to this town called Kensington.
Okay.
I think it might be in Pennsylvania. And it's a city in Pennsylvania. And basically, he gets out of the car, and everywhere you look, there's people shooting up. Like literally everywhere you look, there's just heroin and fentanyl everywhere. The cops don't do anything. He walks up on one guy while 2 strangers are like starting his heart up again. What's that thing they give you? Novak? No. Narcan.
Yeah.
They give you New Kensington. When I see shit like that, and I spent a lot of time in Oakland as a kid, but we still didn't have anything that crazy. Yeah. So here it is.
Oh,
so
wow.
he goes to these cities where he'll be out. The whole documentary will be him out in the middle of a street, hanging out with 15 kids, all under the age of 16. And every kid has 2 guns, just brazen out in the open, an automatic machine gun and a pistol. And they're in their Gucci bags. And there's no cops, nothing, you know what I mean? Or he did one on car thieves, and these people are just brazen. They just walk up to any car and just steal them. When I think of St. Louis, I think of that as one of those cities, like these forgotten cities, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, St. Louis. Is St. Louis like that? Like, man, that shit is just so hardcore. It's like, you can't even imagine.
There's definitely a lot of parts like that. Especially during COVID, it became a very lawless city, it seemed like to me.
Everywhere. That happened in California too, just completely lawless.
Which is unfortunate because a lot of my good friends, they just joined the city police department during COVID. and most of them have gotten out since then, because they joined they joined for noble reasons, and when they finally got there, they got caught up in the politics that they couldn't do their jobs.
It was the wave of cop hating too. My cop friends said, "Hey, we've just we actually, my town, the sheriff here was put, I think, on a 6-month order to never engage."
Yeah, I mean,
just don't engage.
Yeah, I mean, it's carried over today. I mean, just last night I was driving back from shooting an event, and I'm at a stoplight, and 2 cars just boom, just flat out just ran it like they didn't care. It was like, and it was a major intersection, and it's just crazy because that didn't used to be like that. North St. Louis is very, very, very known for its violence. There's gang shootings. You have the Kia Boys. Is that what they're called? The Kia Boys?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Damn, look at you up to that is some hardcore pop culture shit.
I know they've been running. The only reason why is like with the neighborhood I live in, it's like I'm only a mile away from the Arch. I'm 2 blocks away from the Anheuser-Busch Brewery. It's a section called Soulard. It's a very historical area of St. Louis, very trendy, very nice. It's known for having the 2nd largest Mardi Gras in the United States. But it's a really nice area to live at. But every night it seems like 2 or 3 cars are getting broken into. My car's been broken into probably like 4 times over the last 6 months. I've had to replace both Cadillac converters in my car because people are just going underneath and sawing it off. And I've had 2 gym bags stolen out of my car.
Oh, dude.
I know that's the worst. If you talk to anyone that's it's like you have nothing in there worth of value. Like, who wants my sweaty knee sleeves and my grips and my old ass shoes? But
these are I hate to be such a discriminatory, prejudiced person, but these are all young boys who don't have anything to do.
Sure.
These are not girls doing this.
Mm-hmm.
These are boys, and the vast majority of them, you have to know, for every drug addict you're also looking at a criminal, because they don't hold down jobs, and so the only way that they can get their shit is to take your shit, sell it to get the drugs. And so it's so nuts that it's so nuts.
Yeah.
It's so obvious what the problem is. It's boys who are addicted to something, who don't have jobs, but they have a habit that's cost them a lot of money. And these are boys who would rather do drugs than date girls. It's a fucked up boy. That's like the worst kind of boy.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the argument could be made that if you follow either one of those paths, it's going to lead to disaster. But I much rather deal with heartbreak than death.
I love a little emotional pain.
Yeah.
I love a little emotional pain. Break my heart, girl. Break my heart. Not you, Haley. We're too far in. You don't break. I'm done with those. You can't do that. That's Haley's my wife. She broke my heart. I'd be turned into a fucking Buddhist monk.
Oh.
And when you were in the National Guard, is that how you found CrossFit?
Yeah. It was my 2nd deployment to Kuwait.
Year?
2014. Yeah, 2014. The affiliate there was called Camp Arif John. I remember it was my 2nd day. We got there. We're walking through the chow hall. Me and we call him battle buddies. He was a captain, a really good friend of mine. We're walking to the chow hall, and we see this. We're in military uniforms. We're actually in our PTs. We're told that we couldn't wear civilians. And we're walking, and we see this beautiful female walk by us, and she's wearing, leggings and just a t-shirt, and we're like, "What the hell? Who's she?" And
she is right there on the right, people.
No, that's actually not her, but those are all actually old people in the service in that picture. But she ended up being the CrossFit coach. She was a civilian. She actually was a regional qualifier in the Asia regional back then. It was crazy. And then we went there. My buddy's like, oh, he wanted to be a sapper, which is like special forces for engineers. And he's like, oh, I need to do that CrossFit stuff to get in shape for sapper school. And I'm like, and I'm one of those people, hey, if you wrote me into something, I'm going to do it. I usually don't say no. And I did it. And then I found this community,
That's how you ended up at Barbend, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. I found this community there, and it was great. It was a great opportunity for us to kind of decompress. One of our coaches, the morning coach, he was actually the colonel that oversaw the whole base. So he would go there, teach a class, do his workout, and then he would go back and do just run the base. Whether and the base had close to 20,000 soldiers on it, at any given time. But when we're in the gym, we would call each other by there was no rank. Everyone Caleb will talk about it. It's like a different community. It felt like you're home, and we'd sit around and we all gathered around and we'd watch the CrossFit games and, talk about CrossFit. And that's how I got to learn and got embedded in that culture. And it was an escape.
What did you do for fitness before then?
I just ran. I was a runner. And every now and then I'd, do some benches and back squats,
Oh, you were squat. So you had some, how did you learn about squatting?
Football. I played college football as well.
Oh, wow.
So, I had that basic strength and conditioning stuff, some cleaning, some pressing, some box jumps, but, it's funny because a lot of those stuff that you see in college is strength and conditioning, where strength and conditioning coaches they're so anti CrossFit, but everything they do is CrossFit, but they just refuse to say the name.
My buddy, Travis Bajent, called me last night at 11 o'clock at night. So that means it was 2 a.m. his time. He lives in West Virginia. He's so excited. He can't even sleep anymore because his son is the greatest quarterback currently in college football. Next weekend, he's probably going to break the all-time college football passing record. He's going to be a #1 draft pick out of a Division II school. Mm-hmm. And he told me last night he gets a knock on his door, and he opens the door, and it's Dan Marino. And Dan Marino comes in and stays over for dinner. He just wanted to talk to Travis's son and Travis. And then that was 2 days ago. And then yesterday, he said Barry Sanders called him on his cell phone.
Oh, wow.
Barry Crazy. Sanders. Oh. For those of you who don't know, I mean, I'm not up to date on football, but Barry Sanders, I think, was the greatest running back who ever lived that never was. It was really a bizarre fucking career, but he was twice the running back that Bo Jackson was. Mm-hmm. And if he got the ball, and you were at home, you stood up.
Yep.
He was on the worst team ever, but holy shit, if he got the ball, it was on Donkey Kong. Yeah,
he'd either score a touchdown or he would have probably the most exciting 10-yard loss ever.
Yeah.
No play was ever dead with him.
No one could tackle him.
No. And he was just,
And that kid, Tyson Bajent, who's this quarterback, he CrossFitted since he was a little kid because Travis is a CrossFitter. Well, I don't know if Travis owned a CrossFit gym. I don't know if he's a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
He's too big. He's a big man. So you're at the base, and you get introduced to this. And why aren't there ranks in the gym? Why does that go away in the gym?
I don't.
Is it official policy?
No, it's not official policy. I think it's just the community. I mean, you don't go to your regular box and you're calling people by their official title, like doctor or, whatever. I mean, it's just either call them by nickname or their first name. And I think that's just CrossFit. And I think because that's how CrossFit is at a regular box, it doesn't matter where your box is at in the world, it's going to still have that sense of community. So even if you throw in the middle of a combat zone with all these, different ranks and different services, whether it be Marines, Air Force, or whatever, everyone's still, the common bond is CrossFit. And I think, and that community, and you just fall into that. For me, it literally felt like I literally did not feel like I was in the Middle East or in the middle of Kuwait. That box itself is still to this day. It's I'm outside of Mayhem. That's probably the biggest box with the most equipment I've ever seen, because it's all paid by the government. When they built that box there, they gave them a shit ton of money. And okay, what do you need? I mean, they have probably 40 Echo bikes at that gym.
Wow. Wow.
It's
is that gym still there?
Yes. Yep. Still an affiliate, still ran. They still do that's where I got my L1 at there. They still do L1s, L2s there.
Did CrossFit do, who was your L1 instructor there? Who came there?
Kate Gordon was one of them. And then the other two, I forgot their names, but they're no longer with CrossFit. But that's
Kate Gordon's the girl who hit her finger in the 2009 CrossFit Games with the sledgehammer?
No, Kate Gordon's the one that she's the CrossFitter with the sign.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's been the one that used to come on my show all the time.
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. It was crazy because the next time I met her was at the 2019 games when she was on one of it. The first time she made the games on a team. And I went and introduced myself and she remembered who I was. And it's just like, it's been really cool. Just kind of like tracking her. And, we're both in the industry in some way or some form, but she was part of my seminar staff.
Tyler Watkins, not a humble brag. I was Bo Jackson's accountant when I lived in Alabama. No shit.
Wow.
Hey, 2 or 3 more comments like that and I might invite you on the show. My 11-year-old asked me if Barry Sanders was any good yesterday. Great question.
Mark.
I know. I tried to brush over it, Christine. I know. I tried to act like I was like, I know. I just, that's just my brain. I know. Matt, easy, everyone. Settle down. Sevan, please don't pick your nose on camera. I got something dry. Someone wrote in the comments yesterday that yesterday they stared at a booger on my nose the whole time. It's like, yeah, well, I'm going to start wiping my nose a little more regularly then.
So that cocaine you're doing.
Yeah. Right.
Well, with this new camera angle, you're not looking into your nose as much.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, right?
I guess. I mean, there's probably people out there that are into that, but not me.
Fair. Who am I to judge?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was Barry Sanders' accountant. Oh shit.
The one-upmanship is starting.
I was or I am.
Oh.
Remember your camera's on. Don't eat that. Fine.
You do what you want. It's your show.
Thank you, Patrick. You're my favorite guest now of all time. Sevan, your new camera making you look so sharp. Thank you. I always look sharp. I just didn't want to overwhelm you guys, and that's why I always use that ass camera. But I appreciate it, Katie. You're not so bad yourself. You're 18, right? Okay. So you go in there and there's a bond amongst the guys there, obviously. When I think of a CrossFit gym, I think of it as a place like that's where I think of it as kind of like a church. If I find out someone's a CrossFitter, and they're a plumber, I want that plumber. If they're an electrician, or if it's a teacher at the school, I would want my kid to be in that class, or a doctor. God, man, like it's almost a mandatory that my doctor be a CrossFitter because of what it says about someone that they participate in this lifestyle and we know that the wisdom and knowledge that you glean from being in that cohort of people. Was it like that also in the military? Like those quickly became your best friends, or if you had to go out and do it, around somewhere, or do guard duty, or do some sort of shit, you're like, God, I hope I get a CrossFitter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
those were the best guys.
They really are, especially now because the Army has adopted a lot of, CrossFit type methodology. Our physical fitness test is basically a giant hero workout. So whenever I go to these like military courses or whatever, in these schools, and we have to, you always have to introduce yourself and tell them about something about yourself. So usually when I go there, I'm like, hey, Patrick Clark from Illinois. I'm a writer, photographer for, a CrossFit publication. And then everyone's like, you can tell there's like a couple people that'll turn around and, the people that actually pay attention, they're CrossFitters. And then they start putting two together, like, oh, you're Patrick Clark. Because they'll know of my work, or they've read my work, or or they've seen me on a YouTube channel, doing some analysis or something like that. So it's just kind of cool when that happens. And then you build that bond, and you kind of, it just makes things easier. It kind of gets away from being a new kid in school, that new kid in school syndrome where you don't know anybody. And at 46 years old, I still feel that whenever I go to some of these military courses.
Yeah, that's cool. And when did you start writing?
Well, I've always written. When I was in college, after I quit playing football, I worked for basically the PR department for my university, Southern Illinois. And what they do is they have their own media department. They call it sports information at the time. It's called like media services, media relations, wherever. So every university, especially the major one, has a department like that. So I started doing that. And at the time, I was covering some of our Olympic sports at Southern Illinois, like swimming and diving, track and field. Whereas the full-timers, the directors, they're covering football, the major sports. So that's where I kind of started writing there.
What year was that?
2000 all the way up until 2011. I was pretty much in basically sports journalism.
Were you insecure about that in the beginning with your writing?
No, not really. I've always been a writer. Like I would sit there and write short stories and, stuff like that, poetry, really bad poetry. Yeah, I was just learning AP style. No, I wasn't really insecure about it because growing up.
There's an AP style. There's an AP style.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, that scares the shit out of you. Like you have to have at least one dissenting opinion, shit like that.
No. Yeah, it seems like that. No, it's just basically like just the format, a style guide. There's AP, which is it's kind of
provides guidelines for grammar. Okay. Like we had like a style guide. Okay, yeah, we had that at the journal also. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I always trip on the fact that every single article about CrossFit when I was there that would come out, in the world, always had one dissenting opinion. And since there were so few people that hated it, it was always the same couple guys. No matter what the article was, those guys got publicity because they were haters. And I was like, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Well, now you have tons of those type of people.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, I did that. I developed that. I was so big into sports growing up. Like my dad got me, one of the things he got me was a subscription to Sports Illustrated. And, back in the 90s.
Was good.
Yeah, back in the 90s, they had great articles and the photography. I had one room on my wall was just covered with my favorite photos from Sports Illustrated. I tear them out and I wallpapered all my favorite photos, the iconic sports photos. And that was a whole wall. And that's where kind of like my interest in photography came from too. So writing photography, I was kind of reading back of baseball cards, that's where I became like a stat nerd, trying to figure out an ERA or whatever, batting average. That's where my interest came. And so I kind of used a lot of that when I started writing myself. I would refer to that stuff. It was kind of built in, ingrained in me from my childhood. And, and it just seemed like I got burnt out at it from working so much in these small college towns and covering sports that weren't really going anywhere. And, that I actually got out of writing altogether and refused to get out, refused to go back to the business. And then of course, CrossFit kind of dragged me back into it.
So 2011 to 2014, there was a hiatus in the writing.
Yeah. Yeah. And photography, just creativity at all. I mean, those were kind of some dark times, not the darkest times I've had, but that was kind of like from a creative standpoint, 2011 to 14, there was really no creativity coming from me.
It's interesting. Do you think that those dark times have made you more creative now? That I always think that all the bad shit that happens, 5 years later makes for a good joke. I always think of it as like dark times as kind of like being fertilizer, right? Yeah. Like a cow shits in your yard and it sucks for the first 6 months, but eventually that shit breaks. I spread chicken manure all over my property once a year. My wife hates that time of year.
Yeah.
But 2 months later, all the flies are gone. It's all into the soil. And then, in 9 months after that, you have the best fruit you could imagine from the trees.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, because the darkest time I had was after I got my first deployment when I was basically an alcoholic and tried to take my own life. And then I had that other time between 2011, 14. And then just recently after a breakup, each time I was able to learn from one of those dark times and kind of cope, use what my lessons learned and cope with those hard times as well. And it's made things a little bit easier and for me and just living my life. and helping others as well.
What year was your first deployment again?
06, 07.
06, 07. And that was to where?
That was to Iraq.
If I get this wrong, just please correct me. Patrick Clark works at the Bar Bend. We know most of his work coming from the Morning Chalk Up, where he was for a long time. I know him as one of the best contributors here in the comment section, always course correcting us, giving us little tidbits and details that I 100% of the time have always found helpful and appreciative of. And he has also moved into the space of managing athletes. Is a manager and an agent the same thing?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, agent is more the financials. Manager kind of handles like the logistics part, but most managers and agents are the same thing.
So a manager might get together with the coach and make sure that the athlete gets from St. Louis to Carson with the right, so that they don't have to worry about their plane tickets. They have their food organized, shit like that. Make sure they have transportation to and from the venue. Make sure they're happy. Manager's more like your best friend.
Basically, yeah.
And an agent is making sure you're getting not screwed over on deals.
Correct.
And how long have you been doing that?
A year.
Wow. Congratulations. And is Devin Kim one of your athletes?
Correct. Yep.
We'll come down to that. Congratulations, by the way. I dig her.
Oh, she's awesome. She's great. And
her parents should be proud. Well, I would be so proud if my boys grew up to be like that.
Yeah, I've actually had a couple conversations with Wayne. I haven't had the pleasure to meet her mother yet, but Wayne is just a salt of the earth type of guy and just great. It was great when I had a call with her and Wayne. It was just really cool. You know, if they didn't want to go with me, it was fine. Yeah, as an agent, I would have just been happy just knowing them.
Absolutely. 2000, I think her mom might be on the affiliate team, or she was.
Yeah. I think she still volunteers. She helps out. She's no longer employed though.
Oh, like me. I volunteer on the media team.
Yeah. Yeah.
In 2006, when you deployed to Iraq, were you drinking before you deployed?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then so you deploy and you can still drink when you're there?
No. I mean, no, you're not supposed to.
Okay. And how long were you there?
A little over, I think 13 months I was deployed. Yeah. It was during the surge. You know, do you recall what the surge is?
I remember it being all over the news.
Yeah. It was during that time. I think the highest amount of U.S. casualties happened when I was there and in the area I was at. So, yeah.
Tyler spilled. Sevan has the best stutter. Thought gathering pause can be from a half second to 5 seconds. A 5-second stutter. Well, I'm glad I've cut back on the coffee. And it's like a placeholder while he comes up with another analogy. I think what you get when you see this podcast is really truly me, except for that stutter. I don't think I do that in real life, but I'll in real life. But I'll ask my wife after the show. So one more time, how long were you there?
13 months.
13 months.
Yeah.
And what was that deployment like? What was that surge like? What did you do there?
So I was an E6, which is staff sergeant, which is probably the best rank if you're ever going to be in the military in terms of Army.
I think Caleb may have shook his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the Air Force, it's an E4. Way better.
Yeah. But for a deployment, it's like you're in charge, but you're not in charge. Like I was in charge of a group of 12 soldiers, a bunch of kids, male, female, and we ran security escort teams. What it was, anything that went outside the base, especially of a civilian vehicle, they had to have armed security. So part of our job initially when we got there is we were attached to, we call them a recovery crew. The recovery crew, their job was whenever something got blown up, it was a bunch of DA civilians, Department of Army civilians or whatever, contractors, U.S. contractors. They would drive their, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, tow trucks or whatever, out to the site to recover the vehicle that got blown up. But the civilians weren't allowed to have weapons, so we would provide the security for them. So we basically were a QRF, a quick reaction force. So whenever something bad happened, something got blown up, they would call us up at any time. We'd get in our vehicles, drive out there, provide security for the site while the civilians were loading up the vehicle and checking to make sure that there was no bodies in there or whatnot. And then we load it up and then we drive back to the base. So that was like the first half of the deployment. And then the second half, when the surge was happening, they'd shut down a military base. It was called Warhorse, which is like the coolest name you ever. If you're going to have a military base, Warhorse is what you would call it. But it was right on the outskirts of this place called, I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it was where the U.S. Army and the Marines was concentrating a lot of their efforts at. Bakuba. It was called Bakuba. It was in the Triangle of Death, which is another cool name. But they kind of
depend on what your relationship is, as long as you don't have to drive through it.
Yeah. So they're reopening up that base, and to reopen up that base, they needed a bunch of, food, ammo, equipment, stuff like that. So where we're staying at was a place that was the largest Air Force base in Iraq. It was Balad, Air Force Joint Base Balad. It was called Camp Anaconda at the time.
Is that the one that we evacuated and left our shit there?
I mean,
no.
I think that was Afghanistan.
Okay.
That was Kandahar.
Okay.
Yeah. But we our job was we'd have like 20 civilian tractor trailers, like regular trucks, but and we would just provide security while we resupply the smaller bases. So during that time, during the surge, is when a lot of shit was going down. Every time we left the wire or the base, we were either got shot at or we got blown up. So, that was those 2 months, because that happened right before we were supposed to come home. Those 2 months were just constantly on. We're just on alert.
You were filling the new base up with the supplies?
Well, it's an old base, but we're resupplying it.
So that's what your crew would do. Those same guys that used to go out and protect basically the firemen and the ambulance drivers and the tow truck drivers.
Yeah.
Now you were basically a moving service to move supplies to the reopening of this base. And how far was it from the Air Force base you were at?
Not that far, maybe about 30 miles, but we were going maybe 20 miles per hour.
And how many times would you go every day?
Every day, unless we missed the window, because we had these like windows to come back. If we missed the window coming back, we'd basically be stuck there during the day, because they wanted us.
Where would you sleep?
We'd find someplace either on our trucks, or they had like a small gym there. We'd throw a cot down and sleep there too, or outside the Coffee Bean.
What's that? The place, the coffee hat? They have a coffee shop there?
Yeah. Caleb was familiar with Coffee Bean.
Yeah. They still have those.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patrick, I interrupted you. You were going to talk about being stuck there. A reason for it?
Yeah, because they wanted us to move at night, because they felt like it was safer to move at night versus the day. Yeah. So, which was just dumb, because that's when they would, the insurgents or whoever, the terrorists would always, that's where they would plant their bombs, their IEDs, or set up these things. It's not like we're really quiet, because we're making all these movements on highways and on these roads that were well-known, well-traveled roads. So we hardly moved at all during the day. So if we didn't hit that window to leave the base, then we were stuck at that base, which wasn't bad, because if we're stuck at a base, we just spend all day sleeping and catching up on sleep, or sipping coffee at the Coffee Bean.
So every time you leave, is it crazy intense?
Oh yeah.
Like almost like, do dudes have panic attacks and like I can't go? Like, are people freaking out?
I didn't, but since I was, the convoy commander, as we call it, I would literally sit there, because I was the oldest person we had. I was 30 years old at the time. Everyone else was like 18, 19, 20 years old, and just kids. And, I would sit there and I would replay in my head every possible scenario. So I would get the briefings, I would get the mission, I would get, all the intel, and it was my job to kind of disperse that to my soldiers. And I would hold some of that information. There's some information they just didn't know, or there'd be some information if I told them, they would freak out. Like you said, they would freak out. Or
so 2 hours earlier on the road, we had an IED go off, and we also saw a group of Taliban hanging out.
Yeah.
And they would still send you. You'd still go out.
Yep.
At 0.7, there was danger yesterday. They got shot at. Look out for 0.7. So the whole time as you drive through 0.7, are you like, what the fuck? Are you like, you want to did you ever feel like you want to throw up?
Oh yeah, many a times. Anytime I got that feeling, I felt that I wanted to throw. It was kind of like my spider sense. It was usually when we went through these small towns or these choke points or they had traffic circles, which are perfect ambush sites.
Yeah.
Anytime we went through that, it's like I just get this weird feeling in my stomach. But that's usually when we got hit. We either have a complex IED attack or a complex ambush of some sort.
What does that mean, complex?
It would be
multiple.
Yeah, multiple, or it was just something that was well planned out.
Like an IED goes off and they're shooting at you.
That, which was most of the time, or they set off a small IED because they knew that whenever an IED went off, that we would have to stop. And once we stop, then we're kind of sitting ducks.
A complex ambush often involves a mixture of small arms and explosives to both maximize casualties, instill chaos and confusion, and cover the retreat of insurgent forces. Was your vehicle ever hit?
Yeah. Yep.
You were in a vehicle that got shot at and bullets hit the vehicle.
Oh, bullets were no problem. That happened every time. It was the IEDs that got us.
So when you got to your location, would you get out of the car and be like, walk around and be like, holy shit, that one almost got us. That one could have killed me.
Yeah. Most of the time we joke about it because, obviously humor and comedy is the best way to deal with stress and, anxiety. But yeah. Yep.
Hey, do you ever lose anybody?
No. That's the biggest thing I'm proud of, that we've never lost anyone in combat. I've lost some friends since then from those teams.
From suicide?
Correct.
So because you hear that stat a lot, that it's higher than ever, that it's like, one of the running jokes in my tinfoil hat group is, 6 military members died of COVID, 569 killed themselves. Like, what's the problem here?
Yeah. 22 per day veterans take their lives.
No shit.
Yeah.
What is that? That's over 7,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
God, that's a lot of people killing themselves.
Yeah.
And that's is the connection there. That's the trauma that they experience while deployed that didn't get processed.
That and the trauma of them trying to integrate back into society.
Yeah. That was, I had this guy on, Roger Sparks, and he was talking about that basically, like, 1 minute he's loading 11 dead bodies. He's getting shot at and seeing his friends get killed, loading 11 dead bodies into a helicopter. And then 4 days later, you're at a fucking base in Germany.
Yeah.
And it's
or, I think the hardest thing for me was, like, I was constantly on 11, if 10 was your alertness, I was always on 11. And then you would get home and within 2 days you're in a Walmart, and then like 2 days earlier, you're like, you're scoop, exactly. You're at a IED site, watching a vehicle burn itself out because, they rarely ever like showed up to a site if something got blown up with like a fire department and hose it down. They would just let it burn out, and it would take anywhere from 8 to 9, 10 hours for, a vehicle to burn out, especially if you had ammo or anything in it.
So you'd have to stand there for 9 hours on level 11 alert, waiting for a second attack. And then when this thing finally burns out, you drag it away.
Basically. Yeah.
And as this is happening to you day in and day out, are you aware of the toll it's taking on you?
No, I didn't. I was more, me personally, I had a couple days where I was just like, man, this is fucking hard. But most of the time I was more worried about the soldiers because, I think this is where a lot of like my suicidal like tendencies at the time came from, because like I always said to myself, like, if something would happen to us, I hope it happens to me and not to these kids. I hope they die, because like at 30 years old, I'm like, oh, I've lived a full life. These guys haven't lived a life yet. And then
you're a good dude.
And then at the time I didn't. I mean, I hadn't even started living my life. I mean, I still haven't, but that's where like my thinking started. So,
so you come back from that, and that's all. Was that in 2007?
Yeah, and then Yeah, and then I got back actually got back like the day before my birthday, and then my civilian job at the time at the university, they told me that I didn't have to start till the new year, so I had 3 months to myself, to my own devices.
Where did you do that?
I basically spent my time between St. Louis and Vegas.
Oh shit! Wow.
Yeah.
Did you know anyone in Vegas, or were you going there for extracurricular activities?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I knew people there. Sometimes I meet up with them. Sometimes I didn't.
Did you ever get into drugs?
I dabbled.
But alcohol was
alcohol was mainly it.
Your go-to. How do you remember your first suicidal thoughts?
Yeah.
Like how it crept in? Could you tell me about that?
I was literally, this was like actually a week before I actually tried to take my life. I was sitting in my apartment.
Wow, that escalated quick. You had your first thought, and then a week later, you were taking action on it.
Yeah.
Wow, that is fast.
Yeah, it was, and it actually didn't happen until later. It was probably it was in January of 2008, and I just started working at my job again, and I looked around. I was sitting in my apartment in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and I was looking around my apartment, and all I had was I don't know. I just felt broken, and I felt broke. Like all the money I made from my deployment was gone. All I had to show for it was a TV and an Xbox, and I'd made over like $80,000. Like when I came back from my deployment, I had $80,000 in my checking account. And then here I was 3 months later, I had nothing besides a paycheck I was getting. I mean, I was looking forward to going back to work because I needed money.
What was your job at the time?
I was working
back at the university.
Yeah, back at the university, working in the athletic department.
Okay.
And
they hold the job for you, Patrick?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
They have to.
They have to, yeah.
No one has to do shit. They
True.
will fuck you quick.
Per the government.
Per the government
rules,
they
have to hold a job for people who are in the guard or deployed or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, I looked around and it was like, man, this is sad. I had nothing obviously I had my family, but it's like
Where did they live? Did they live in that town?
No, they were like an hour and a half away. I mean, Cape Girardeau is about an hour and a half away from St. Louis, the St. Louis area where we're from. But, there's nothing. I had nothing. I didn't have like a girl or someone I can convey. I mean, I had friends, but I was like sheltering them, but I didn't have like I felt like I hit the end of the road. And then I started drinking some more, and then I got numb to it. And then, a week later, I guess I decided I was going to try to end it.
Do you remember the thoughts that build up? Did you think of it as suicide? What words did you use? Like, were you just like, hey, I there's nothing here for me? Were you depressed, or was it kind of like, were you ambivalent to it, or?
I was tired.
I
was just tired. I just, it's just like
exhausted,
kind
of done with life.
Yeah.
I don't have any more in me.
Yep. Exactly. Just like, I just want to close my eyes and just fall asleep.
So were you depressed, or is it more like, I've just had enough?
Both. One led to the other. Like my depression led to that.
Because maybe were you looking for something new also? Like, hey, like you didn't know you were looking for something new, but this has become tedious and a chore to live.
Yeah.
The magic and the excitement is gone.
Yeah.
Of being alive.
Yep.
I know I feel like my experiences with that's what it was. It wasn't so much depression. It was like, I'm done.
Yeah. You're just tapping out.
I'm just tapping out. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what it felt like. I mean, depression was a symptom of it, but the overall thing was like, I was just tired and just wanted everything to end, and just didn't want to deal with all the stuff. Didn't want to deal with just simple tasks. I still have anxieties when I go to like huge events, stuff like that, and I was like, I would purposely avoid going to Walmart. If I went to Walmart, I'd go like late, back when Walmarts are 24 hours, I would go to these superstores I would go like at 2 a.m. because there was no one there. But
do the lights even bug you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's like. I think also for people who like live in the country or people who get old, like as I get older, I cannot like, I don't like, even like the 20 parents who are like watching the kids do jujitsu in the class. I have to go outside. I get overwhelmed. I get like sensory stimulated.
Yeah.
And do you know what the root is of it? Was there something? Do you know what kind of closed you off to the world, that the world didn't seem magical anymore? Was there any moment in your experience over there that you think like cauterized you shut, or it was just the totality of it, of just a burnout?
I think the totality of that, and then also being around my team, being around those group of people, and them depending on me and me depending on them, I just felt like I didn't have a purpose.
Yeah.
And those guys, my team, I mean, all of us, that was our purpose. That was our meaning. We're doing something bigger. Whether like, I didn't agree with why we were at war, but that's not why I went to war. I went to war because of these kids, because I felt like if I didn't go with them, they wouldn't come back.
Fair.
So I put a lot of pressure on me. It was never political for me. I know that I'm a political pawn. I know what the military is, but it still doesn't stop me from serving because that's bigger than me. So I have to concentrate with what I can't control, and that's what soldiers and these young soldiers coming up. If I can help them out in any way and make their life easier, then I felt like I've accomplished something.
I wonder if that's why you've stepped into this role of agent manager.
I think so. I think so. It's me wanting to help people and mentor. I feel like I'm good at doing that.
And you have endless energy for it. Like when you have purpose in your life, it's like you could do it 24 hours a day. It's like,
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So you come back, the thoughts start popping in. A week later, you take action. What was your method? What was the plan?
Sleeping pills. I was too big of a pussy to shoot myself.
Thank God.
So I just took a bunch.
Did you have a gun?
Yeah, I did. But the last thing I wanted to do was have an open, closed casket. I didn't want someone to find me, with my face blown off, or, I didn't want to put people through that pain. I understood that whatever I did, if I was going to kill myself, that people were going to be in pain, but I didn't want to make it any worse. So I ingested a shit ton of sleeping pills and drank a shit ton of vodka, and sat on my couch and then just drifted away.
Were you crying at the time, or
no
of emotionless?
I cried a lot when I woke up in my own puke and realized that I didn't do it.
Wow. Did someone find you?
No.
Wow, fascinating.
Did you cry because you wish it had worked, or because
you realized it was a mistake?
You realized you're still alive.
It was a little bit of both. Initially, it was because I think that I didn't do it, and then once I started thinking about it, I was like, I cried because that I actually thought about doing that.
Are you a religious man? Do you believe in God? No. Do you believe in God?
I'm spiritual. It's weird. It's like, I guess whatever. I do believe that.
You read your horoscope.
No, I don't do that. Yeah. But I find all that stuff interesting, but I'm not. I'd say I'm more spiritual but not to the point where I'm like, praying to anything.
And how did that? Was that your only attempt?
Yeah.
And how do you think that and that was
2008.
Okay. So 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Does it seem like 14 years?
No.
Like, seems more recent.
Yeah.
Like it could have been
especially now because I opened up and share my experiences now. So that's why it seems like it's just like yesterday. Before, I was ashamed to even bring it up until I started becoming a proponent of it, not of committing suicide, but just sharing my experiences in the hopes of helping other people.
I have some pretty strong opinions on embracing death and people in that there's a depth to life once you've embraced depth that I don't think it can be forced on you or practiced. It's kind of weird. You kind of have to be called to it, like you were.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? Do you feel like that there it dug a hole in you that now you can fill with wisdom, or it did something to you that that there's no other way that anyone could have unless it's the cohort of those who've either experienced near death or who have attempted death?
Yeah, I feel that way. Especially lately, within the last like 4 years, especially once I, now that I've become a little bit more open and shared my experiences. Yeah. I feel like I'm not scared of death anymore because, I don't know. I've accepted that it's going to happen at some point, at any point. I mean, I'm lucky to be here to begin with. I mean, I don't know how many times that I should have been dead.
Right. I mean, if you're in a car that someone shoots at on a regular basis, it's fucking crazy that you're alive.
Yeah. I've been hit by 3 IEDs.
Wow. Any that stopped your vehicle?
Yeah. All of them stopped the vehicle.
Oh my God. What a fucking crazy job. I just want to be a National Guard.
I just want to, go to college and
I just want to play soldier on the weekends.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to come over here.
Yeah.
Those aren't your words. I'm just saying that.
No. But it's funny that you say that because even to this day, when I go to my 1 week in a month, I go play Army.
Melissa Odier, one of Sevy's guests said wanting to die and killing yourself are different things.
Yep.
Did you, this is kind of just gross of me to ask, but I gotta know. Why did you fail? You didn't take enough pills, or you didn't drink enough vodka? Like, what should you have done differently?
I think it all came down to positioning. I think what happened is I fell on the couch, and what happened, and this is talking to other experts, and maybe Cale, might be able to correct me on some of the stuff. I guess my body started convulsing, and when it was convulsing, I fell off the couch and I fell on my stomach. And when I fell off my stomach, my head turned and then I threw up. I think I was, from the time I woke up to when I took the pills and blacked out to when I woke up, it was a matter of 8 hours. So at some point in those 8 hours, it hit me. I convulsed, fell off the couch, and woke up in my own puke. But the good thing is I didn't land on my stomach, it's crazy because my old roommate.
Oh, because you would have drowned in your puke?
Correct. Yeah.
Your body won't digest all of those drugs and all of that alcohol, so it'll force itself to throw up even if you're unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So it all depends on how you land, essentially. Like if you're laying on your back and you've already ingested all of those things, like you're just gonna drown in your own vomit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why when you have like alcohol poisoning or stuff like that, with college kids, you just roll them on their side and they'll just start vomiting onto the ground instead of it just going back into their mouth and not being able to be evacuated properly.
Fucking nuts. Oh, what were you were going to say something?
I think about it because I had, he was a fraternity brother of mine in college. He was my old roommate of mine. He passed away in 2019 from kind of the same way. Like he drank a lot, had a bunch of drugs, and passed out, and he died from puking from choking himself. And
drowning sounds like the worst.
Yeah. And it actually just dawned upon me that he died the same way that I try to take my life. And I didn't think about it until just this moment. And it's just like, it's crazy. because I'm literally the place I'm living at right now. This is the spare bedroom. This used to be his bedroom.
Oh shit! Wow.
And then it's crazy where life takes us, because it's just wild.
You're not married?
No.
You have 2 dogs?
Yep.
Did any of your siblings go through similar trauma that you went through?
I don't think so. If anyone has, it's probably been my sister more than anyone, but she's so like, yeah, she's a hard ass.
Are you close with them?
I'm close with my sister. My brother, me and my brother are close too, but me and my sister, she is. Me and her are a lot closer. I think a lot of it has to do because we're both still in the Army as well. My brother, he retired a couple of years, maybe 4 years ago.
Are your parents still alive?
Yeah. Mom and
Dad. Do they know this story?
Not in details. My dad knows, that, just in me having conversations. Yeah, he knows, but he's a Vietnam veteran and he's gone through he's fighting his own demons. Even now, he still fights his own demons.
Wow. The whole every like 3 minutes, I think, oh shit, what's Caleb going through? You recently went from Morning Chalk. How long were you at the Morning Chalk Up?
Almost 3 years.
Wow. And how long has the Morning Chalk Up been around?
Gosh, maybe 6 years.
I don't know if you know the story, but when it first came out, I think it was just an email, and I remember, oh, this is really cool. And then someone told me that the guy who was running it, who I believe was Justin LaFranco at the time, he had come from like being a lobbyist or something, and he had done something similar on a daily basis in DC or something, and then he just took this know-how and knowledge and this presentation. I shouldn't say just, because I by no means do I mean to belittle it. And he brought that to CrossFit, and I remember subscribing to him and be like, this is fucking dope. Yeah. And then I contacted, and then at the time I was the executive media director at CrossFit Inc. And I was like, hey, I'm going to buy this. I told Greg, I said, hey, I'm going to buy this from this guy.
Yeah.
And so I invited him to the CrossFit Games. I think that's how it happened. And then he went to, he got in, I was working, but I had him go to Greg's box, and I think he met Greg. And then Greg decided he didn't want to do it. And I think that it just wasn't nothing in particular, but they just didn't hit it off.
Yeah.
And so then that's when we started the email of the day at CrossFit. And similar to the Twitter account that I started at CrossFit that I got in trouble for back before there was Instagram or any of that shit, ended up becoming a massive tool. And as soon as the email of the day became successful, that was also taken from me and ruined very quickly. I don't know if you remember, but it used to be really cool, the email of the day. And then all of a sudden they just started making an exact duplicate of the homepage. And so the whole thing got fucked up. But, and then, so you're over at the Morning Chalk Up, and you're there for 3 years. And without a doubt, it's the most notorious, infamous, I'll go as far as to say, breaks my heart, the premier, no peer, standalone in its class. Even though there were things like probably like box rocks and bar bend, they weren't the community felt like they had ownership of Morning Chalk Up, like it was part and parcel with it. It was an organization, but still within the community.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can't think of anything else like that.
No, I mean, even now it still is. I mean, the joke is, it's not even a joke, but we would say when I was at the Morning Chalk Up that we cover CrossFit better than CrossFit does. Like we tell the stories that CrossFit should be telling, and we took ownership of that. Like when we write all these pieces about, someone like Amy Bream, who, is an adaptive athlete who, who battled to become a CrossFit Games athlete. We covered that before CrossFit did. We're doing a lot more of these community pieces than CrossFit is. I mean, CrossFit should be doing the community pieces, not the Morning Chalk Up. We should be covering just the sport. And so that was kind of like a badge of honor that, people at Morning Chalk Up probably still feel that way, that they do CrossFit better than CrossFit.
And do you have any idea how many people work there in its prime, at its peak?
I think at one point we might have had, maybe including contributors, like, in terms of writers, maybe 18.
And it was considered a prestigious job in the space. People were proud to work there.
Yeah.
And you did everything there, right? I would see you in videos. I would see you in you written articles, and you did photography.
Yeah. And then I helped out with the newsletter as well. Like, I would have eyes on. I'd help with like finding like everything from our speed reads to our highlights, just anything I thought that was newsworthy worth, I would, contribute in that way. And on the back end, and before the newsletter would go out, I would have one of the final eyes on in terms of making sure the corrections, wording.
So some editing too.
Yeah, some editing. Yeah.
And there's another word for it. I don't know what the word is, but make sure it's on point with something Morning Chalk Up would want to put out.
Correct.
It's in CrossFit, we would call it just sort of like make sure it's on point with our brand.
Yeah,
but for you,
on brand. Yeah,
on brand.
Make sure it's on brand. Yeah. I would do that, and then one of the things I really got to enjoy was a YouTube channel, and also the coming up with story ideas and assigning them out. So at one point I was I guess when you want to call it, news editor, where I would come up with ideas and, hey, Emily Beers, you're going to write this story, or do you want to write this story, or, just assign them. So that was kind of cool. Assignment editor, I guess you want to call it.
Yeah. I think in the film space, we'd call it a producer. You'd be like some sort of an executive producer. Okay, we need these 10 things done. These are the teams or the people who are going to go out and do it. Yeah. Kind of the same thing you did, maybe a lot of what you did when you showed up on site in the military.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of a bigger picture, making sure everything is getting done.
Yeah, that was kind of like, that was a role that I was kind of like, I kind of created for myself at the Morning Chalk Up. And that's what kind of brought the resurgence of the YouTube channel back.
Oh, and that's pretty recently, right? That's in the last year. Yeah,
last year. So actually September, and I take extreme pride in this. Is like, I mean, that YouTube channel was, at one point, we brought on Clydesdale Scott on to kind of run the YouTube channel. Just for whatever reasons, it didn't work out. I think it was just more the styles didn't really fit each other. So after the games, we had no one. We had no YouTube personality, nothing like that. So,
games of 2022 or games of 2021?
2021.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, after 2021. And I was going, I think that fall, was it Labor Day? Yeah, Labor Day weekend. I got invited to go down to train with Rich. And I took my camera equipment with me. And I asked Rich, hey, do you want to sit down and do some interviews? So we sat down, and that's where he we broke that it might possibly be his last year. So I filmed it, sit down interview with him. And then I asked Justin if I could have the YouTube credentials so I can throw that interview up there. So I threw that interview up there, and it got a lot of views. And then I started shooting more interviews and started doing that. But the thing is, like, I wasn't very good at interviewing people. And we had someone on staff that had a background in that, but she wasn't being utilized in that. So I called Lauren. I'm like, Lauren, you should be doing these. I'm like, let's bring the YouTube channel back. And she goes, well, is Justin knowing we're doing this? I'm like, no, let's just do it. I've been doing it anyways. Let's me and you do this. Let's make this YouTube channel a thing. So, you'll see from September to like December, it was kind of like
of 2021.
Yeah, 2021. You can see the transition of me going to Lauren, and then Lauren kind of making it her own. But I was kind of acting as her producer on the side, helping her out with ideas, put her in touch with athletes, and this was all being done without Justin's approval. We're just doing it. And
well, I don't want to take anything away from you, but it also shows that was the key to the success of CrossFit in the first 5 years. Also, that we were allowed to be intrapreneurs. That was a term I learned from Patrick Bet-David, which is basically entrepreneurs within an entrepreneurial organization. Yeah. So he, God knows I don't want to give him any credit, but he found the right person in you who was a workhorse and an entrepreneur and who could be a self-starter. Mm-hmm. And you fucking ran with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Lauren took
because a lot of bosses might not have done what Justin did and stepped on your dick and been like, no.
Correct. Yeah.
But you ran with it. You took, and it's not like you were getting. It's the same across. It's not like anyone was getting paid extra for this shit. It's just like, hey, I work here. I take pride in it. I'm doing it.
Yeah, and I looked at
so many people don't realize that's how shit gets off the ground.
I know exactly. And
what are you gonna pay me? Get the fuck out of here!
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think this is? The fucking government you work for?
Yeah, I didn't get paid for any.
Not a good analogy.
Don't pay me either.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. It was actually kind of cool, just kind of like starting from kind of rebranding it, because I think we had like 25,000 followers on the YouTube channel, but that was all from the 2019 games, when we were able to use the feed from the 2019 games and show it on the Morning Chalk Up. So a lot of those subscribers were dead, not dead literally, but they were, they weren't active accounts, YouTube accounts.
Right.
So,
do you, and I have a huge bias. I appreciate Lauren's content that's more raw than the edited pieces that feel like, so when I had her on the show, I watched like 100 of her news stories when she was, working at all these news stations around the country. Yeah. And it's that typical format that's, like that you see in a Will Ferrell movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I haven't watched that kind of news in like, I don't know, 25 years. I'm even actually surprised people still watch that kind of news. But that I appreciate her raw stuff more. Like, I love the stuff that she's putting out, like at Rogue or at Zelos games. I'm like, I feel like this is real.
Yeah, it is. It's her. That's Lauren putting her personality out there. And that's why we love that. Whenever we had a show that we get me, Tommy, and Brian on with her, like anytime we had those little debate shows where we made picks, those are the funnest. And she'll tell you those are probably our favorite episodes, because
she flourished there too, because she drives forward.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of like how you do.
Yeah.
Like how you do. Yeah. And she would get involved as well. She would and we would invite her in, in kind of like the analyst world. And she liked that. And, and she's, she does really good in those situations where, like you said, it's raw and unscripted. She's so much better at that. And I think that has a lot to do with her background in TV, when she would show up to a location of a fire, and then she had to interview some random guy in his underwear and like ask him what's going on. He's and she did
that stuff good too. Yeah, you're right. Like I can remember this one piece she did where she was at a flood.
Yeah.
And she randomly interviews this guy. He's fucking doesn't want to talk, but she fucking gets it out of him.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that she's best there. I just don't like that other style.
I agree. I mean,
I think that she does the cheese dick style great too. It's just not, I just think it's cheese dick.
Sure. No, I agree. It's like, hey, what's your favorite color? I mean, you brought that up, stuff like that. And I think most people do agree. You don't learn anything. I mean, and plus that story's already been told at some point.
Right.
I mean, you do a lot of great research, and I don't know how many times you can come across the same story that's been told. Get you something new. Or I think that's where your platform is really good at, is in terms of you can bring a lot of that information out. When I was at the Morning Chalk Up, I pride myself on soaking content. That's one reason why you see me in those chats, because I'm there listening. I listen to you. I listen to Nate Edwardson. I listen to Craig Rich. I listen to all of it because I want to hear what everyone in the space is seeing. I want to hear those other opinions too, because that's what makes me a better journalist or a better analyst, is knowing what everyone's opinions and thoughts are, and then I can form my own, based off of what you guys are doing, and compare the two. Or
you think I should be watching those?
No, I don't think so at this point. I think that you've established.
I watch Lauren pretty much, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then if I have to, I'll go over to if I have to, I'll do Invictus Mindset. If I have to, I'll do the Brute Guy.
Yeah.
And if I have but basically my go-tos are Lauren and Clydesdale.
Yeah. I think
and
those
Scott has some Scott. The reason why I like Scott so much is I feel like he breaks the surface with people.
Yeah, he does.
It's like it's like the only one with like some depth to it. I shouldn't say the only, but he's very calm. He's like the Buddha sitting there, and he'll ask some deeper questions, and people will open up to him.
Yeah, I agree. He's obviously a very likable guy.
And to tell you the truth, not a lot of people watch it, so I could just steal his shit. Like he asked a question, I'm like, fuck, this is fucking amazing. I'll be like, well, I'll ask the same question and I'll get more eyeballs on it, and people will pat me on the back.
Yeah. No, I think you're fine with those two, and then scattering the others, especially with with Lauren and Clydesdale, it's. I mean, you're a busy guy. It seems like you're a busy guy, but it just, you're doing no more than 30 minutes of listening or research, whereas some of these podcasts can go longer than that. And then, and most of these other ones like Nate and Craig, a lot of them are repeating stories or news that's already, they're just giving their opinion on it.
That's the thing. That's the thing where I struggle with those guys, because if Nate could just title all my videos, I'd be fucking gold. He is the king of titling. That is not easy, people.
Yeah.
That is not, his titles are so fucking good, but I've learned to take his titles and then do my research somewhere else. Okay, some news is out about Haley Adams, but I just can't put myself through the 15 minutes of that.
Nate's done a great job, if you notice, especially in the last month. He found his niche in terms of he needs to talk. He knows that,
and he's real. It's his voice. He's real as fuck. It's his voice.
He's found that Haley Adams, Danielle Brandon, Mal O'Brien, anything HWPO, if he puts a thumbnail or talks anything about them, he's going to get automatically 15,000 views.
Right.
And his videos are 8 minutes, so it's really short. So he's figured out this formula now, because for a while there, he's kind of been back and forth with a lot of things. And I think what he's found now, it works for him, you know, and he's doing a good job. He
seems genuine as fuck. Him and Hiller are kind of on the same page in terms of, but I just feel like Hiller, I get more of his opinion.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Hiller's laying concrete blocks, and Nate Anderson's kind of like putting out clouds of smoke. The second I think I'm going to get something, I'm like, wait, what the fuck where did that go?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And Hiller will, whether I agree with him or not, I'm so stimulated by it. I'm like, okay, there's the wall he built. I can touch it. I can decide whether I.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. That's a good way to compare it to. No, I mean, I think Nate's doing. I mean, he's found a formula, and it's working for him, and it's something that I wanted to kind of, when I was at Morning Chalk and help with the YouTube channel. That's something that I wanted to do more of, to have some of those opinionated pieces where we're hitting on some of these.
I'm ready to hear Lauren's opinion. By the way, she's been in the space long enough that she doesn't just have to push the story forward. I want to hear her chime in.
100%.
I don't know, Brian, that's bullshit. Tommy, what do you think?
Yeah.
Just start some fights.
Yeah. I wanted her to do that too.
She's ready.
Yeah.
She knows more than, she knows as much as anyone else. She might as well.
Yeah. I 100% agree. It was great because I was able to hang out with her at Zelos, and I didn't really have any immediate capacity at Zelos this year. I was just hanging out, managing and shooting here and there, but it was for no one in particular. But I was able to kind of hang out with Lauren, and it felt like old times, like what we wanted to do before I left.
So it wasn't weird.
No, not at all. I mean, it's not weird at all. I mean, there was a little bit of weirdness, I think, when we were at Rogue, but once we realized, hey, we're both in good places now, and that we can live, we're both doing two different things. She's on the YouTube platform. I'm more of a written, but yeah, everything's cool. It's great to be around her and Presley. You haven't had a chance to meet Presley yet, but she's a good one too. But those two girls are doing great things. I mean, two women are doing great things at the Morning Chalk Up and for the space and CrossFit. You're going to see a lot more Presley coming up here and on different platforms.
When I think of the Morning Chalk Up in the past, the people I would think of would be obviously Justin, but I would think of you, Emily Beers, Tommy, and Brian. For whatever reason. I don't know if that's accurate, but those are like
in that order.
No. No. And Tommy, if I'm mischaracterizing this, let me know. Tommy left shortly after Brian left, and shortly after you left.
Correct. All three analysts.
Yeah. Is something going on there? Why are you guys leaving? Is it because you're bigger and better things? I mean, obviously Barbend is, it's a robust website. There's a ton of shit going on there. Is it for independence? Is it just out of and I think, I don't know this for a fact, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but Tommy and Sean's podcast has been absorbed into Charlie Doobie's company, Wild Horses. What's Charlie's company's name?
Hamilton Road.
Hamilton Wild Horses. Hamilton Road. And so is there? Did you exhaust your time there, or you didn't like it there?
Me, I exhausted my time there.
Just needed change. You weren't pissed. They weren't like, hey,
I wouldn't say I wasn't pissed. There's some things I was unhappy with when I left, but I wasn't in a position to make any change. So that's one reason why I left.
And they brought in a new guy. They brought in that guy from Outside Magazine, who I'm not a fan of, absolutely at all. Let me be very clear.
Okay.
Patrick Hasselblad.
Blender has it.
Yeah. They brought him in to work under. Oh, that's a cool photo. Oh, if those were gold chains, I would be doubly as happy. That'd be gangster.
That was in Dubai last year. So,
look how tan you are.
I know. I was so tan back then.
Did his coming have anything to do with your guys? He's not in this photo, right? The Patrick guy.
No.
Did his showing up? Did that change? Did they do a restructuring or a reorg or anything like that made it so that you and Tommy and Brian?
No, I mean, obviously there were some changes in restructuring, but I don't think anything he did affected what we were doing. I mean, at least on the surface level. I mean, we were still able to analyst. I mean, we pitched stories. We're still, able to do a lot of things, but it was a change in terms of the structure and what we used to do and how we would do things. It gave us another step. I mean, he was brought in to be the senior managing editor, and he's really good at doing that. We were not used to that because either it was, Joe Jennington Palawa, who was our editor, but he didn't have the background that Patrick did, or it was Justin LaFranco, who was our senior managing editor, So, the style was different, but that I don't think that had anything to do with us leaving. Brian left for his reasons. I'm happy Brian left because what him leaving gave other opportunities. It showed other people in the space that it's just not the morning chalk up in terms of if you want to be an analyst or a journalist or someone in the field, because at the time is either you wrote for CrossFit, which didn't have really any writers, or the morning chalk up if you wanted to be a writer or an analyst. And since the games, Barbell Spin's shown that they're a contender now. And then
you showed up on the scene after the whole entire media department had been fired.
Correct. I wouldn't be in this space if it wasn't for Tommy and actually Rory. Because I used to be a judge. I used to judge competitions. I mean, that was my thing. I had no desire to do anything journalism or writing. But I ran into them, and it was right after they got fired, and they were kind of like free agents. They were in China. They got brought over to China, and we're sitting there sharing our stories, and I was sharing mine. And yeah, I think that was my last games, 2019 games. Yeah, my last year as a judge.
And they were like, hey, you should get into the journalism space.
Yeah, because we're telling each other our story, and they're like, how come you're not doing anything media related? I'm like, is there anything out there? And that was so weird because at the time I thought it was just CrossFit Media, and they're like, of course, there's plenty of things, because at the time both of those guys were trying to find their spot, their place in the post firing or whatever.
Everyone's still trying to find their place.
Exactly, it still is. You're right.
Yeah.
So that was kind of Tommy. Tommy got brought on by Morning Chalk Up. I started volunteering as a photographer at the Morning Chalk Up, and then Justin realized, that I could write, and I had a background in sports journalism, so he brought me on, and here I am. So, yeah.
So Tommy leaves, and that kind of I'm trying to piggyback off of this idea that I may have gleaned from you. Tommy leaves, and that sets precedent. Like, okay, there's life after Morning Chalk Up. He took that step. Then Brian leaves, and that's when it really comes to your mind. Okay, wow, he's finding another place to practice his craft.
Yeah,
and then the opportunity. It sounds like none of you were like, "Fuck you, I quit," and slammed the door on the way out. It sounds like other doors opened, and you guys went through them.
Yeah.
Like there was never a day you weren't working. The day that you worked for Morning Chalk Up in Barbend, they butted up against each other.
Yeah, I literally wrote a preview piece for Morning Chalk Up, and the next day I was writing a recap of day one at the Rogue. So I went
awesome.
Yeah. So it was like I put in my 2 weeks, told Justin this is my last day. This is what I'm going to do up until that last day. I mean, I literally was working until the last hours of that. God, I'm trying to think, the 28th, 27th, or something like that. And then the next day was full blown, right in the bar bin coverage, which was great. That's how I prefer things. Like their onboarding, they said the people at Barbin's, like I had the most unique onboarding ever. Most people don't onboard with an event. So I went right into it.
I really wanted, there was like a month where I really wanted Lauren to come over and do all the games interviews for me. I was just fucking exhausted from, I just not like physically or mentally, or not physically or emotionally exhausted, but it was just like, if like you just eat too much chocolate, you're like, I shouldn't have eaten the whole bar. That's how I felt about the games. It's like, I just wanted to throw up. And I was like, if I could get Lauren over here. And I was always admiring how much content she put out and the fact that she could push the show forward. I was like, damn, this girl just pushes and pushes and just pushing the team forward. The content.
To see her, I didn't get to see her that much during the games because I was busy shooting. I was busy shooting, so I wasn't able to help her out as much as I wanted to. But then seeing her at Zelos games, was like, wow, she's freaking amazing.
She's on the grind.
Yeah, she constantly is. And she's got so much better at turning that stuff around. Like she didn't know how to do a lot of this InDesign or, Premiere stuff, like the editing. And she's taught herself how to do that to a point where she can quickly turn around something.
Yeah, she said she was up till 5:30 in the morning. When I hear that, I know someone's on Premiere. I'm like,
yeah,
you're on Premiere.
But that was at Rogue. I think now she's better at it. Like she was turning that stuff around pretty quick at Zelos. Yeah, I'm excited for her because I really think,
well, she's in a tough spot without you and Tommy and Brian though to dip in the well. The videos have gotten weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can tell she's like these people, and by weird, I guess here's a more friendly way to say it. You can tell she's interviewing new people to replace you. Like she hasn't found the guys to replace you yet, so she's rotating in people looking. I think the best person she's found so far is Jamie Hagaya.
Yeah. Oh, I love Jamie. Yeah.
Yeah, she's dope. I'd love to work with her too. She is dope.
And we're in a weird space right now, especially with her. It's like a lot of these people that she's bringing in, they work for Hamilton Roads as well, which works for CrossFit. So a lot of these people probably, I don't know if there's going to be like an exclusivity where they were not going to be able to come on our show anymore. And that's what that's something I've always been fearful of, because I knew as soon as we started coming out that YouTube channel, that at some point someone's going to grab our idea, someone with more money, probably CrossFit, they're going to grab our idea and throw more money at it and more resources at it and make it their own. And I think through Hamilton Roads, I think that's ultimately what they're going to do with Talking Elite Fitness.
Well, well, I will tell you this. At the end of the day, I am very, very happy of how things turned out with mine and Lauren Cleo's relationship. I'm actually very happy she stayed over there, and the turn of events that happened for her, I think, are great. I think finding people who know about games to come on your show and talk is fucking way harder than most people know.
Yes.
But I say this with all humility. Anyone out there who thinks you're going to take someone from my show and make them completely your own and not let them come on my show, you are out of, you will only hurt yourself.
Yeah.
I say that with peace and love. You will only hurt yourself. That's not a threat. I'm just saying, I think that the people who come on my show, it brings so much value to the other places that they go.
Yeah.
And I would never do that to one of my employees either. I don't think, be like, hey, you can't go, or employees, volunteers.
Yeah.
I would never say, hey, you can't go somewhere else. Because for me, that was the greatest thing about Brian. He could be everywhere. And I wanted people to see him on Talking Elite Fitness at the morning chalk up and then pop onto my show. Like, fuck.
And Brian's the type of person that he doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be tied down to one thing. That was important when he was...
the Benjamins, Patrick.
Exactly.
There's a number.
There is. But if he was, I mean, Brian's a star. Obviously, we all know that, but it's only getting brighter. You saw what he did on the Zealous games.
Yeah.
As soon as, I mean, that's opening up so many there's opportunities opening up right now for him. He's going to be doing the same. He's going to be broadcasting again at Dubai. I mean, his style is it's something fresh, it's new, and people respect him, and they know that what they're getting, they're not getting a cookie cutter, color analyst. They're getting someone that actually puts time and money and research into.
It's 1950s. I would even say it's not new. It's 1950s.
Yeah,
he's the fucking guy where you can close. Well, you could close your eyes and remember, like when you hear boxing matches on the radio.
Yes, and he would paint that whole picture. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, agree. I went back and rewatched the whole broadcast the last couple of days, and it's just like, it's amazing what, you guys showed that it's capable. So when someone says, hey, we cannot live stream the semifinal from South Africa or Brazil, it's bullshit. You guys did that on a shoestring budget with some volunteers and
with $5,000 more, if we could have got a fat pipe in there, internet pipe. Then we ruled the roost.
Yeah,
because those iPhones shoot 4K, and at that point we rule the roost.
Yeah,
the intimacy of the Zealous games. I'm so proud of what we did there.
It was amazing. It's groundbreaking. It's very raw, but at the same time very refined.
And you got to see all the events.
Exactly.
You got to see the finish line. You got to see all the athletes. Yeah, it's very raw.
And then,
but that being said, it was more. You got everything, and I can't say the other events. I can't say that you even get half the shit, even 10% of the shit.
Yep. I mean, Souza was running around, going behind the scenes. I mean, you don't get that. You
Right.
You have to wait. I mean, you saw that. You've produced and you've directed a lot of these videos. It's like you have to wait like 6 months to see the
at least, yeah.
But you're seeing it right there. You're seeing how these athletes interact. So
thank you, Scott. It is all about the fact. That is correct. Thank you.
But you got to see that right there, and you got to see how these athletes interacted with each other, what they do. It's like you don't see that. You don't see that until the documentary comes out, or the Miles to Madison, or whatever. Even then, it's a small snippet.
Right.
So,
and it's polished. It's been edited.
Yes, exactly. And that's not CrossFit. CrossFit isn't edited. CrossFit's raw. It's dirty box gym. Chalk everywhere. Bad lighting. That's CrossFit. But you guys captured that.
I appreciate you being on here, Patrick.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking at the 45-minute mark, I'm like, we're never gonna finish this. I look forward to having you on again. I hope you will. I hope you will come on again. I do not say that at the end of even 10% of my shows. I tell you, we have a lot more to talk about, brother.
We definitely do. I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being so open, intimate, letting us get to know you. It's refreshing. I appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, Caleb, stay safe over there.
Will do.
Patrick, do I have your phone number? Can I have your phone number?
I think in that email, is that your phone number? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll text you my number so that way you have it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
All right, guys, have a great day. Peace and love. My kids have been in the car for 20 minutes.
Oh
no, I told my wife I'm going to be late. Just loaded them up. Okay. I am coming. Very open, very candid, very pleasant, very smart, very sincere. But we have to get to the bottom of the morning chalk up thing. There's no way there's no way all three of those guys. I wouldn't have I would have kept pushing, digging a little bit more. But I was like, I got freaked out by the clock. He's great. He's great.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't even know. I love you too, Bruce. You the man. Not that I had any concrete preconceived notions of him. It wasn't like swirling around in my head, oh, he's going to be super charming, or he's going to be a dickhead, but I don't even know I wasn't even conscious of my preconceived notions, but I obviously had them because I've seen him around in the space forever. And it's always awesome when people, like, he didn't just double or 10x. He just completely went off the chart of whatever I thought he was. He left it in the dust. Like I couldn't even, I was like, wow, I've forgotten anything I knew about him.
Yeah. I met him at semifinals, and just even that was like, oh, he's a really good dude. He came up to me right away and just said hello and introduced himself. And he's a really nice guy. Yeah.
Good dude. All right, brother. Thank you. I'll see you in the text messages. Everyone, have a good day. Tomorrow morning is Hiller Fit. Will you be here tomorrow, Caleb?
Yeah, I should be.
All right. It's gonna be a fun one tomorrow. Could even get crazy. All right. Bye-bye.